Have you ever wanted to stay at a haunted house? A place where history still roams and the spirits of those who came before will come out at night to hunt. Tonight we're visiting some of the most haunted places in the UK, places where you can not only hear about ghost stories, but experience them. She huddled, terrified, in the corner of her room at the Mermaid Inn, the guard at the door, listening to the villagers outside calling for her blood. Tears flowed down her face and her stomach heaved, thinking of the morning, when she would be led out to the square, dragged by her tied hands, feet bare and bloody. Villagers would be shouting and spitting, throwing whatever came to hand. They said she was a witch, but all she had done was try to heal. Now, as the flames licked up her skin, causing unbearable pain, and as her life left her, her fear formed into her existence, anchoring her soul to her last living place. Could this be the spirit that haunts the witch's room at the ancient Mermaid Inn? At the ancient Mermaid Inn, a Grade 2 listed building in Watton-under-Edge, England, 20 ghosts are said to roam, some friendly, some malevolent. It dates back 800 years, however deeds at the Gloucester Records Office say the inn dates back to time immemorial. Built as a keeping house for slaves and workers who were building the local church, it became a priest's home when they left, and then a pub until it was finally turned into a guest house. However, it became so dangerous that today you can only go and stay as part of ghost hunts and investigations. Named by some as the most haunted building in England, lovers of the paranormal have travelled there in droves to stay the night, to see if the rumours are true, and challenge themselves to not let the fear consume them. After John Humphreys converted the building into the guest house in 1968, he seems to have unleashed some dark presences. While digging in the garden, he uncovered the graves of children. They appear to have been killed in some sort of ritual sacrifice, the broken blades still lodged in their skeletons. Ever since then, the cries of children have echoed through the inn, screaming and sobbing. When visitors found out, they left stuffed toys for the small spectres, which seemed to calm them, slightly. When John first moved in with his wife and daughter, one of the ghosts became furious at his presence. John would be pulled by the arm from his bed at night, a terrifying experience that only stopped when he put a large wooden cross over his bed. However, the poltergeist activity did not stop. It simply moved to another room. John would hear banging on the window late into the dark hours of the night. John also found an old painting he thought would be a fantastic vintage addition to the inn and hung it proudly in the hallway. It was an old painting of a priest called John Wesley, and as soon as John hung it, the inn seemed to come alive with paranormal activity. Doors swung violently and loud banging came from the windows. Even the dog would not go into the hallway. John took the painting down the very next day. The bishop room is said to be the most haunted room at the inn. Devil worshipping is rumoured to have happened there, and the spirits seem to confirm this. The ghost of a woman has been seen hanging from the ceiling. A dark monk and the screams of a man whose head was pushed into the fire are just a few of the horrifying spectres. People have levitated, been thrown across the room, and have even been driven to jump out of the window. However, not all the spirits at the inn are evil or dangerous. The spirits of some animals have been seen. The ghosts of a small dog and a black cat keep visitors company, the latter possibly explained by the mummified corpse of a black cat that was found in the walls during renovation. This was not entirely surprising because an old yet disturbing English custom was to wall up a black cat in your home for luck. And then there's also the ghost of our poor accused woman, who was said to have stayed at the inn before she was burned at the stake for being a witch. Her final moments in those four walls, terrified at the thought of what awaited her out in the quiet village. And if the stories are true, she may still be there, waiting for morning to come. The water drips from the ceiling, keeping time with his rapidly increasing heartbeat. He feels like a trapped rat, clawing at the walls for escape, knowing that there's only one way out. The gavel slams, his fate sealed, death inevitable. But he knows he cannot face that rope, the spectacle of the execution, the weight. So he does the only thing he can. He beats them to it. As he breathes his last alone in his cell, his fear solidifies into hate. He vows that if he cannot get revenge in this life, he will find it in death. Could this be the poltergeist that plagues the Skirrid Inn? The historic Skirrid Inn in Wales is said to date back as far as the 1100s. Although originally built as an inn, it was used for decades as a courthouse during the 17th century, where lawbreakers were not only judged but condemned and hanged. A large oak beam that spans across the top of the staircase is said to be where the noose would hang. It even still bears the marks of the rope. Wandering the halls of this ancient pub are the spirits of the sorrowful souls who were tried and often killed for crimes ranging from sheep theft to murder. Over 180 prisoners met their deaths here. An angry poltergeist is said to move and throw items around the bar, believed to be the presence of a man who, while imprisoned in the lower floors, took his own life to escape the gallows, and now torments the living in his fury. In one of the guest rooms there is thought to be the gentle soul of a woman not connected to the courthouse. An unfortunate resident, Fanny Price, tragically died from tuberculosis in her room overlooking the beautiful Brecon Beacons in the mid-1800s. Her apparition has been heard in the faint rustling of a dress and in the lingering scent of lavender perfume filling the air. In many ways, the Skirrid Inn seems to still be a bustling courthouse. Visitors report seeing ghosts of officials going about their daily business, prison guards returning to their posts, and prisoners howling from the jail. It is, however, a thriving pub and guest house. You can stay there for a relaxing break exploring the Welsh countryside and hoping for a glimpse of the undead in your room at night, or you can take part in their organised ghost hunts, trying to contact the spirits and uncovering the sordid stories of the past. A bead of sweat ran down his temple. He stared straight into the face of his would-be killer, a sly smirk forming on that mouth. He held the wound on his side, the one that would surely be his demise. Time stood still as his opponent lunged once more, strong and unharmed, arm thrusting towards his stomach, and he knew he could do nothing. With searing pain radiating through him, he grabbed the blade protruding from his torso and staggered. Back he fell, his foot catching on the top step before he tumbled, almost gracefully, down each wooden stair, finally coming to a stop on the bare floor below. As the light faded from his eyes, he saw his killer towering above him, smiling. The last thing he felt was the sword wrenched from his body. Could this be the shadow that looms in the bar of the old Mermaid Inn? Established in the 12th century, the Mermaid Inn in Rye, England, has a long and troubled past. Fighting and crime were common in this pub, as smugglers used its cellars for decades. The port town was the perfect place for the Hawkhurst smugglers gang to hide their goods, to trade, and to settle their quarrels. The apparitions of two men duelling have been seen on the landing, a shadow falling down the stairs and onto the floor below, which is now the bar. It has even been caught on camera. But the mystery of the Mermaid Inn lies in its many and varied ghosts that linger in the guest rooms. Many visitors have shared their encounters with the hotel, which have been recorded in a vast archive. One couple staying in the Elizabethan room left for a walk, only to turn back and look up at the windows of their room, where they saw two shadowy figures staring at them through the glass. In one of the rooms, the chambermaids refuse to clean alone because of the poltergeist activity that occurs there. Items are thrown, the room will suddenly become very cold, and the rocking chair moves on its own. A lady in white has been seen in another guest room, and during a séance held at the inn, something truly unsettling occurred. The medium's face and voice became contorted as they reported that a spirit had entered the room, a dog at its side. Spectators were invited to hold their hands out towards it, and a shadow engulfed them. They claimed they could feel the fur and warmth of a dog. The bar area of the pub has also seen paranormal activity. A fire broke out at one end, and while the barman tried to tend to it, bottles flew from shelves at the other. The barman quit his job on the spot. Perhaps the most chilling tale comes from the account of a young child who at the time did not even understand what she was seeing. In the middle of the night, she woke to the spectre of an old man. He wore an old-fashioned nightgown and cap, holding a quivering candle in front of him, searching for something before disappearing. When she told her parents the next day, she described him in a way that made it clear she did not understand the clothing or the time period it belonged to. But her father was deeply unsettled by what she said. She still remembers to this day the old man of the Mermaid Inn. The snow stung his face, driving sideways over the hills. The darkness had fallen fast and he was already lost. He looked down at his wife and child. She shivered violently. The boy swayed on his feet, his eyes half closed. The inn was not far, he knew it, if he could only find the road. They trudged on, all direction lost in the blackness. Suddenly the boy fell forward, lying in the snow, not moving. He knelt down to pick him up, and his wife fell beside him. His strength had long left him. He scooped them up into his arms as he sat there, a tear freezing on his cheek. They were cold and unresponsive when he let the cold take him. He drifted, his despair forming in a mist, like his final breath, into the air. Could this be the phantom family that arrives at the Drovers Inn? Named by the Scotsman as one of Scotland's most haunted pubs, the Drovers Inn is located on Loch Lomond, in a perfect setting for those travelling north or south through the Highlands. In fact, it was used for centuries as a halfway guest house for farmers driving their cattle to market, in search of a roaring fire and plentiful whisky to warm them. Today it's a busy hotel and pub, a haven for those exploring Scotland, looking to tackle a Munro or two, or for those who seek the unknown and paranormal. Legend says that a family of crofters were thrown off their land when the landlord decided more money could be made by farming sheep than renting to farmers. They journeyed to seek a better life down south, but as the weather worsened, they were caught in a terrible snowstorm and froze to death. Over the winter months, many visitors report seeing a family wandering the surrounding land, quiet and translucent. Their apparitions have also been seen many times arriving at the inn, finally making it to their longed-for destination. One couple even woke to them standing at the foot of the bed, shivering, their breath misting in front of them, the boy waving, happy to be safe and warm. A truly terrifying tale comes from a first-hand account of a visitor staying at this hotel with his girlfriend. He remembers how his girlfriend woke him in the middle of the night. She was frantic, asking if he could see the many lights that danced around the room. Thinking she was just seeing things, he told her it must be the smoke alarm. She urged him to wake properly, to sit up and look around the room. As he did so, he was amazed to see hundreds of tiny pinpoints of light floating all over. They would appear, move around, and then disappear. Unable to sleep, they watched the lights until daybreak, when they asked staff if there were any fireflies or explanation for the lights. The staff assured them that no, there was nothing that could possibly explain the phantom lights that had plagued them all night long. These places are all open to visitors today. You can stay in them and even spend the night. But just know that you won't be alone. You'll have the company of the spirits of hundreds of years past. So if you've made it this far, tell me in the comments, which one would you stay at?